What is going on, YouTube? Dr. Away here. This is going to be the second part to the field fighting guide series. In this video, I'll be talking about specifically pretty much covering like the murder ball. I'll go into what type of marches do you want to bring to an open field murder ball, how many marches, and kind of go through everything that you need to do before you actually send that march out. Okay. Let's get into it. Amen. So the murder ball philosophy really is that you're trying to clear as many enemies off of the field as you can while minimizing how much damage is being done to you. Right. So on an open field, what you're always looking for in the commanders is march speed, AoE skill damage, and utility. Right. And I'll talk about each one of those. So the reason why you want a lot of march speed is because there's going to be traveling times, for one. That more march speed cuts down on those travel times. Two is you'll be able to pick and choose what fights you actually engage in. So if you have no march speed, anybody, especially cavalry, can catch you, right? And you're forced to fight at that point. Now, if you're fast enough, you can avoid fights entirely. Totally, so you can basically, you want to be the one that's picking the fights. For the AoE skill damage is, there's going to be tons of commanders, tons of marches out there, and having AoE allows you to hit multiple marches with skill damage, right? As opposed to if you don't have AoE, you can only hit the march that you're directly attacking, and you'll do counter attack to whatever march is attacking you, right? But that's it. Okay. And then the last part is the utility, and all that is like a buff or debuff or something that can augment, yourself, other players, or diminish the stats or some type of attribute on the enemy, right? So those are the things that you want. Again, march speed, AoE skill damage, utility. Not every open field march is going to have every single one of those requirements all the time. Sometimes you'll get march speed and the AoE damage, but not the utility. Sometimes you get the skill damage and the utility, but not the march speed. Sometimes you get a little bit of all of them. Sometimes you get a lot of it all. It really depends on the commanders, but the best commanders for the open field, murder ball specifically, is going to have the march speed, AoE skill damage, and the utility. Now, with that being said, before I get into the commanders that I would recommend, how many marches should you be bringing? I think everyone should at least bring 3. You need to utilize every single one of your troop types, because if you're only bringing 2 marches, well, you can only utilize 2 troop types. So it doesn't really, you really don't get the benefit of utilizing all of your troops, right? So you want to at least do that. So 3, okay? You can have more, and then you just base that decision on the equipment that you have available and the amount of troops that you have. Can you field more than that? That might be no for some of you. Some people, it's going to be, hell yeah, I can field more, right? I have a video that covers how many troops you need. I'm not going to get into that now. Okay. I think right now, as far as the commanders, you really do need to do the big 3 is what I'm calling them. The Nevsky, the Boudica, the Scipio, the Nevsky, Boudica Prime, Scipio Prime, right? The reason why they're the latest and greatest, they're all versatility commanders. Versatility commanders basically means that all of their skills are going to be relevant for the open field. All versatility commanders, all their skills are relevant for the open field, right? And then they will cover each of the troop types, right? Infantry, not infantry, cavalry, archers, and then infantry, right? So now you don't have to have these commanders' expertise, but they are must use. If you can get them to 5.5.1.1, I think they're all good to go, because 5.5.1.1 will give you the active skill max, and usually the second skill is what gives you the stats and the march speed. And then these other last 2 skills, you get quite a bit of the bonus at the level 1. Like you get half of this skill at level 1. You get about half of this skill at level 1. It's kind of the same concept for Boudica, right? You don't get as much, but this isn't too bad, right? And then you get half of the healing factor. Not as much of the damage, but half of the healing factor. And then the stats and march speed is on the second skill. Same thing with Nevsky. There's more stats with Nevsky, but most of the stats is on that second skill, and then obviously the active skill. Okay, so for what, 600 sculptures, simplifying it, for 600 sculptures, you can get 3 great primetime commanders, right? That's my recommendation. Now, who would you pair them with? Right, for Scipio, right? You already said it. Like, most people have Alex, so Scipio Alex is great. You don't have to necessarily do Guan Scipio, even though that's better. Just use what you have. Alex Scipio is a good combo. It has March speed again. It has the March speed. It has the AOE debuff, not AOE. Well, Scipio has the AOE skill damage. He has a debuff. Both of them have debuffs. Both of them have an insane amount of March speed. There's lots of stats, right? And it's really good instant proc damage. Phenomenal open field march, right? There's better marches out there, but this is still very strong. For Nevsky, there's not a lot of Cav commanders that I could recommend to necessarily free to play, because like maybe your free to play can only really get Nevsky 5511, because I mean 600 sculptures isn't exactly fast typically. So like obviously there's not a lot of AOE commanders, but you can pair Nevsky with maybe a 5511 Minamoto. Some people have that. Compare them with a Mehmed. I personally like that a little bit better because it provides AOE, but Mina's debuff is nuts if you have him expertise, but most people don't. So I believe that Mehmed will definitely provide, especially with the relic, a lot of defense, AOE, more skill damage. You can also, if you don't have that really in a good spot, just use Babers. Like, he, gives you the AOE, some stats, a little bit of healing when you break combat and march speed, so you'll be very mobile, and it's AOE, right? And then for Boudica, I mean, everybody pretty much has YSG, so that's the only one I can really recommend. There's better pairs for Boudica than YSG, but I wouldn't say that it's better for how many sculptures is going to take to make it better. Let's put it that way. I think your sculptures are spent just working on Boudica, quite honestly. So Boudica YSG is what I recommend for archers. Like, I would like to say like what I would do like in lieu of this, like what would be if you're not using Season of Conquest commanders at all. But I highly encourage you that this is what you want to be moving towards, because anything less than what I'm recommending kind of gets stopped. Right? So I want you to have a positive experience. That's why I'm telling you this is what you should be doing. Okay. Now I've covered I don't want to spend too much time on the marches. So those are the marches that I'm recommending, right? Money where my mouth is. I say those are the marches I'm exactly using at this moment. So what is the process that you go through like for the setup before you actually like, okay, I'm ready to fight? First thing I like to do is just get my marches on save slots. I think I've pretty much already done that. I use there's 4 sections, blue, red, and yellow. I have mine set up, this is just barbs, and these are like my fighting marches, and these are the ones that I send to send my T5 with when I'm, garrisoning or reinforcing a rally. But you can set it up however you want, right? Okay. So right, this makes it like really easy to get your marches out there quickly, so you're wasting less time sorting and more time fighting. Now, you can kind of do 2 things to kind of like supercharge this. As you see here, it's 750k units. It doesn't have to be that much, but how I did that is that I went to the campaign expedition and went here, and then if you go to this first section here, right there, you'll be able to put in way more troops. That's how I do that. And that's really good if you want to fight first with T5. And when you run out of T5, you use T4. I just use a straight T4 for field fighting. I don't really use a farm account, so I just don't have the resources. I can't sustain those resources over a period of time. But the only downside to doing it this way, like, so basically the upside is if you're doing all, T4. Let's see, let's go here first. If you're doing all T4, like, I don't have to, this will work with an expansion. So if I can only have 210, then that's fine. 260, that's fine. Or 310 K troops, that's fine. Right? But you're not able to add bastion support skills to that. If you just want to do the support skills, what you would have to do is just and the downside with doing it this other way I'm about to show you is that you can't do like the start with T5 and then use T4 because you can only make that possible in the campaign because it allows you to have enough troops to do 310K or how many ever expansion of troops that you're going to have, right? Now, the regular way, you can just, right before you fight, you already know you're going to pop an expansion. You pop the expansion and then you can, go in and you can't see the bastions now, but when we get a KVK, you can like set the bastions down here and then the troop amount, and then you're good to go that way as well, right? So I would set that up. And then I would say the next thing is getting all of the buffs and augments and stats that you're going to do. So like popping an expansion is the one thing, the first thing that you might do, or one of the things that you do. And then what you're going to want to do is come over to the commander tab and make sure that, all of your marches that you're bringing out to the field have, a little bit of a buff, Boudica, extra 2% of defensive stats, 1% of defensive stats, some attack. So, however you want to do it, it's a small bonus, but still a bonus. You can just supercharge one march, so to get like 3% of defensive stats, but I just spread it out among the marches. And then the next thing, you can get runes from holy sites. Obviously, a lot of people like the 10% health, 10% defense. Some people get the 7% attack and 7% defense, 14% of stats total. Like, whatever, just get a rune. It doesn't have to be insane. Just go to a holy site, get a rune, right? It's 2% attack because I'm in zone 1 because I'm farming marauders. Fine, right? And then there's also tokens that you can pop. Most people have pretty much, I would call it, a basically infinite amount of defense, 5 to 5%. But if you want to like be super saucy, right, and then go over to let's see here, the VIP shop, I'm pretty sure you can buy. I would do this during more than gems. You can buy an enhanced, advanced defense for 10%, right? I just popped the 5 for the most part. So then, now that you got all of your buffs in order, what you want to make sure that you do, you can actually do this when you send them out, before you send them out, or you can do this in the commander tab, but you just want to check the gear, make sure it has the gear. So like you can see up here, this is a new feature. Before this wasn't possible, right? You can see exactly what you have right there. Okay. So then I can just check, make sure they all have gear. They do. Right, so now I'm good to go. Last thing you want to do is check the talent trees for the primary commander. Make sure they're good. Is this what I want to use? And to be honest, this isn't. I did that on purpose. So I want fight to the death. This is how I want to do Alex. I believe, yep. This is rally. Okay, yep. So I'll switch. This is the one I want with fight to the death. This is really good if you don't get focused. Okay, so now he's good to go, and then I would check Nevsky. I don't have Horn of Fury, so I really like Feral Nature. Good. I have Feral Nature because I don't have Horn of Fury. This is good. And I believe Richard is the other one. And I know I have Garrison on him right now. This isn't going to be a march that I use as a primary. I just have it as a placeholder for now. I'm going to have Guan and Like, then I just put Alex Richard. So it's going to be Alex Richard and Guan with Scipio. Okay, fine. So I don't worry about that because I actually do want him for Garrison. For Arc. So then now at this point, you're ready to go ahead and send out your marches. Everything is set up. And a lot of that, once you kind of get it set up, you don't really have to do it again if you don't change it. You just have to just get the room, pop the expansion, pop the token. Then if you haven't changed your gear or your talents, then you're good to go. But it doesn't hurt to just check to make sure. Okay, then you make your murder balls in amount. So this is where I'll stop the video. Once you get to this point, now we will start getting into the next video about like the techniques, how should you approach. I'll talk generally speaking, maybe, because I know fighting in ruins, it's a little bit different because you can only bring one march. But like for a whole murder ball type of thing, I'll talk about, how should you be grouping in the murder ball? How should the murder ball be moving? What's your part in it as an individual player? How to, drag marches, how to fight to basically make sure that you're staying in position, the positioning, all of that type of stuff will be in the next video, right? So that's probably the video that everybody's like most excited for. I probably won't get it done today. It's most likely going to be tomorrow, but I really hope this information was really helpful. You're a wonderful person. Keep playing Rise of Kingdoms, and I'll see you in the next video.